Senator Kyrsten Sinema is fighting hard to ensure that her own constituents overpay for pharmaceutical drugs. Now, this has to do with a provision in the budget reconciliation bill that she has come out against. That provision would allow for Medicare to negotiate drug prices directly with pharmaceutical companies, something that's currently banned, in order to secure lower drug prices for Americans and also in order to save money to the federal government, which funds Medicare. Now, Senator Sinema is opposed to the current prescription drug pricing proposals in both the House and the Senate bills. She also doesn't support a pared back alternative being pitched by House Democratic centrists that would limit the drugs subject to Medicare negotiation. Now, Representative Scott Peters in the House, of course, has offered a substitute for the more robust provision that would allow for these negotiations to take place between Medicare and drug companies. And basically what he would do is limit the number of drugs that would be able to be negotiated on, right? So there'd be only like 20 drugs that Medicare could negotiate about, but everything else would be banned from negotiation, which, I mean, this is how neoliberalism works. In neoliberalism, the government isn't irrelevant. The government works on behalf of corporations, and that's exactly what's happening now in regard to how these negotiations don't take place with the Medicare system and the pharmaceutical companies. Now, here's more on the healthcare provisions in the budget reconciliation bill. The drug price negotiation changes that Sinema is coming out against are a major component of the bill's envisioned financing. Democrats are counting on them to raise as much as $700 billion over 10 years to pay for the party line bill's ambitious programs. And you know why? Because allowing for the government to negotiate drug prices directly with pharmaceutical companies leads to lower drug prices, leads to less money being spent by the federal government on these drugs. It makes sense, right? So whenever you hear these corporate Democrats talk about how it is not fiscally responsible to pass this provision, no, it's fiscally irresponsible to not pass this provision, because that means that we're gonna continue spending way more on prescription drugs compared to other countries.
Yeah, so first of all, that context is really important, because if you hear that it's some sort of, extraordinary thing to do to negotiate drug prices, you might have a different mindset and go, oh my God, these radicals say that we should depend on the markets. But wait a minute, I thought conservatives said their whole lives that we should believe in free markets. This is not a free market. It's literally the exact opposite. It says the market cannot negotiate drug prices. The government's the biggest buyer of drugs, along with many other buyers, and they're saying we should do an unnatural thing with one of those participants, the government in this case, not being able to negotiate. They should just take whatever price the drug companies say. Whatever that is, it ain't free market. So now, no other country in the world does this. It's unprecedented. I'm not even talking about developed world, developing world. No. No country says we will not negotiate. We'll just pay whatever price that a company says on anything. Oh, cars, we're buying cars. We'll just, the government needs a bunch of cars. Okay, hey, GM, or Toyota, just charge us whatever you want. $1 million a car, sure, no problem, I'll pay it. Like, that's insane, nobody would do that. Except we do that. We've been doing it for a long time. Why? Because, and this will blow the minds of mainstream media reporters. And I hate to say, because I love America, but America is the single most corrupt country in the world.
It is, we're the only ones who actually legalize bribery.
Exactly.
Like, it's amazing.
And if you're wondering, and you say, oh, that sounds like hyperbole. No. Even in the most corrupt countries, like the former governor of Afghanistan and the current governor of Afghanistan, it's still illegal to take the money and run, which they did, right? In our country, we made it legal.
Yep.
Drug companies pay politicians and they say, now, hand over, this is a robbery. But except it's a bribery. So I give you a tiny amount of money, which you, questionable politician, take so that you could win and keep your power and wealth and fame and all those things. And then you give me back trillions of dollars from the American taxpayer.
Yep.
It is exactly what conservatives are supposed to despise. And it's certainly what progressives despise. The whole country agrees to this. The only people who don't are people who've now raised their hands like Kyrsten Sinema and just blatantly said, I am corrupt, I work for drug companies. There's no way I would let the voters get their way. You will pay higher drug prices because my donors bribed me. That's what Kyrsten Sinema is saying. Anyone else pretending, they're out of excuses. Do you know what their excuse is for having these higher prices, artificially higher prices? They say it would help the drug companies with innovation.
Except we help fund their innovation through research and development funding.
It's not even worth discussing how absurd that talking point is.
It's absolutely
absurd.
It's
so pathetic that even like mainstream media reporters are like, give us a better one than that. That's pathetic. No one believes that. If you don't call them corrupt, you're not actually doing journalism.
So I want to quickly mention that axing that provision has a domino effect within the reconciliation bill. What is that domino effect? Well, as Politico reports, axing it would imperil the healthcare reform components of the social spending plan, such as a proposal from Senator Bernie Sanders, which is supported by Biden, that would expand Medicare coverage to hearing, dental, and vision. It would also, by the way, lower the Medicare eligibility age from 65 to 60. So it's not just about doing away with one provision that has to do with negotiating drug prices. It would in fact have a domino effect on other health-related provisions within the bill. Now, why is this happening? Cenk has already talked about it, but I want to give you more details in regard to the corruption that's taking place here. Because when it comes to the Senate, Kyrsten Sinema happens to be the top darling of the pharmaceutical industry.
Wow.
This is not about Kyrsten Sinema poring over spreadsheets because she's worried about the deficit, as Axios would have you believe. This is really about her own personal interests and how she's willing to sell out her own constituents and the American people in order to do right by her corporate donors. So Sinema formed a congressional caucus, by the way, to raise awareness of the benefits of personalized medicine in February. Then soon after that, employees of pharmaceutical companies donated $35,000 to her campaign committee. Now, it doesn't stop there. I want to give you specific examples. Amgen gave her $5,000. So did Genentech and Merck. Sanofi, these are all pharmaceutical companies. Pfizer and Eli Lilly all gave $2,500 each. Each of those companies has invested heavily in personalized medicine, which sounds great, right? Except it promises individually tailored drugs that can cost a patient hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Absurd.
And also, it's worth noting that for the 2019 to 2020 election cycle through March, this isn't even when she's running for re-election. Political action committees run by employees of drug companies and their trade groups gave her $98,500 in campaign funds. That's what this is about. It's about the legalized bribery. It's about the corporate donors having far more sway over these corporate Democrats than their own constituents do. And when you look at the House of Representatives, as we've reported on before, there are corporate Democrats who are trying to defeat the same provision in the House version of the bill. One of those corporate Democrats is Representative Scott Peters. His constituents confronted him about voting down the provision in his committee, and he essentially said when they demanded that he stop taking pharmaceutical money because he's the top Democratic recipient of money from pharmaceutical companies. He said no, and he claimed, I will not unilaterally disarm and allow a Republican candidate to beat me when I run for re-election. But you know what would actually speak pretty loudly for your constituents? If you actually secured material gains, if you actually improved their lives, if you lowered drug prices, that speaks way louder than just continuing to screw over your constituents by raising money by with these corporate goons.
Yeah, so look, every time we propose Medicare for all or Green New Deal or college for all, any proposal, what do you hear, guys? You hear, how are you gonna pay for that? Well, good news, in this case, we're paying for it through this provision. So it's a win-win. We all get lower drug prices and the American government gets more revenue to be able to pay for climate change and all the other things that we're tackling in this bill. And then once we do exactly what they asked for, conservatives, including conservative media and conservative Democrats, immediately move the goalposts. No, now we don't like you paying for it. So which one is it? It's none of them. What it is I'm never, ever, ever going to vote in a way that my donors do not allow me to. And you got the $98,500 for Kyrsten Sinema. That's a lot of money already, but that doesn't even take into account the real money, the dark money. So those are all appetizers. And then behind the scenes, she eats at the trough of those donors for a lot more. She's cheap, they're all cheap. Peters is cheap, they're all cheap, okay? But they're not that cheap. They still get more of the dark money. And so for a couple $100,000, they sell out every single voter and then brazenly admit it in public. Well, I'm not going to unilaterally assign. And guys, remember, when I ran for Congress, I asked my Democratic primary opponent to give back money and not take money anymore from these giant companies.
They won't do it.
Not only did she not do it, everyone in media yelled at me and said, how dare you? That is so uncivil to point out that she's taking direct contributions from corporations. You're the bad guy, not her. And that's why the Sinemas and the Peters of the world are empowered to do these outrageous corrupt acts because the media doesn't call them out, they're on their side. They go, oh, bravo, bipartisan, Kyrsten Sinema. Oh my gosh, she cares so much about spreadsheets. There's a little article we covered last week on Axios. It's amazing the propaganda that corporate media does for corporate goons in Washington.
She's got that accountant-like focus, Cenk.
Yeah. It's cinema paradiso, how much she cares about the math.
It's ridiculous.
She's so objective. Whereas Bernie Sanders wants the larger, less practical bill. That's how Axios painted it. By the way, who are giant advertisers on Axios? Drug companies. So that's how this game is played. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.